Hello, everybody. Welcome to the second session of Bank to the Future Live. And hopefully you can all hear. So if anyone is watching live, this is the only time, the second time we've done it. So I don't imagine too many people are watching live. We had a lot of people watch the recording, but hopefully as we start doing more and more of these, there's going to be more and more of you joining us live, because then we can answer your questions as we go through the Bank to the Future Live. So we're again back with Famida, and she's moderating the forum. So she'll be taking your questions as we go through this second episode of Bank to the Future Live. And could you let us know in the chat if you can hear us okay? And hopefully you can hear me and see me okay. And I'm just going to carry on talking. If you could let us know in the chat that everything's good, and I will continue as usual. So thank you all for last time. We had really good feedback from the last episode of Bank to the Future Live. We just sent out our newsletter with a new deal that's gone live on BnkToTheFuture.com, which is the start engine pitch. And you should have all just received the newsletter. Make sure you keep an eye on that, because we're letting you know about new deals that go live. Any interviews or live sessions that we're going to be doing, any blog posts, any updates, any technical updates, also new places that may be listing Bank to the Future token. Now, we seem to be recording this at what may be a little correction in the market, or maybe we've hit the bottom, who knows? But there seems to be a bit of a bullish sentiment that's coming back to the crypto market, at least for the last few days, and we'll see if that actually turns into something or where we go next. Also, make sure that you download the BF wallet for your Android and iPhone, because we're going to go through in this broadcast some of the things that we're going to be doing with the BF wallet. We are officially launching our first security token on the BF wallet, and the BF wallet allows those that invested in the security token to get their addresses whitelisted. And once your address is whitelisted by being either a certified and verified member of BnkToTheFuture.com, then you're able to send, receive, and transfer those security tokens within the ecosystem of those that are also whitelisted. And we're really excited about what seems to be happening in the security token space at the moment in its infancy. But do remember, I do remember when ICOs were very low, very liquid, and trying to be built, when Ethereum was trying to build and improve on counterparty and everything that was being built on Bitcoin and Mastercoin and Omni, is now Omni. And there was really no liquidity. And then it took right up until 2017 until the market really exploded. And so we've seen these trends happen quite a few times with Bitcoin, with altcoins, with ICOs and tokens, and now we're looking, and also equity, of course, for those that have been invested through BnkToTheFuture.com. Then you'll notice many of the equity valuation increases for the companies that have performed well throughout this whole crypto boom. So in this episode, what I'd like to do is we're going to review the roadmap and what we used when we did our token sale. Now, the 1 year period since our token sale is actually this week. So we want to review what we did in the last year and go through the roadmap and maybe look at some of the things we did do, some of the things we didn't do, and explain why we might not have done them, and also look at the history, because I want to explain in my own words some of the things that I think are important events that have led to what I'm calling the most exciting time to be alive in financial history, as a result of, firstly, Bitcoin, the different things that have come from that, and the financial technology that's being built right now, really leading to what I consider a bear market that's really, really allowing a lot of people to build some great solutions ready for the next bull market and the next crypto wave ahead. So what we're going to do is we're going to turn over to Famida, and Famida is just going to share her screen, and she's on the original page that we used when we did our token sale. And just to recap, BnkToTheFuture.com is an online investment platform for investing in equity and securities of the most valuable companies in crypto and up-and-coming companies and more speculative opportunities as well, all centered around financial innovation and technology. We believe that we had a very simple philosophy when we first started the company, and that is that the future of finance looks very different from the past, and every single financial product is going to be disrupted by financial technology companies one step at a time, as they start to compete with some of the largest and most entrenched financial interests in the world. And we believe that we're in the midst of the disruption of a multi-trillion-dollar industry. We just don't know which companies and which technologies are going to succeed. So we give the opportunity for people to be diversified across a wide range of investment opportunities, should they qualify to invest through our platform. So then we last year did a token sale to our members at BnkToTheFuture.com, and we created an ecosystem around the BF token. And the way we like to think of the BF token is, if you look at one of the great success stories of the last couple of years in our industry, most people point to Binance as one of the most successful crypto companies because they grew so fast so quickly. And one of the things that allowed them to do that was the fact that they built their whole ecosystem around the Binance token. And they integrate the Binance token into everything they do. They now just launched a decentralized exchange, and everything they do, they think about how they can integrate it around the Binance token, and it creates a network effect. So we like to think of ourselves as the same for equity and securities, for crypto equity and the securities token market. We've been involved as a securities business in funding some of the very early companies that actually are now worth multiple $1 billion when they were worth only less than a few million. And we've been around and doing this for quite some time, and just watching the growth of this market. And our investors have either benefited from that because they invested in some of those what later became unicorns, or this is high risk, high return as always. So they may have invested in some of the companies that didn't succeed, and we're starting to see in the bear market some of those companies that haven't been able to make it, and you're seeing a consolidation around acquisitions by some of those larger companies. And fortunately, at BnkToTheFuture.com, our average investor has an average of about 14 different investments in the industry. So they're able to be diversified, and hopefully they invest in some of the larger unicorns through the platform. And we look to bring as many high risk, high return opportunities that are involved in transforming the future of finance as this multi-trillion-dollar industry gets disrupted one step at a time. And that's what we're up to. So sorry, took a bit of a tangent there. The Bank to the Future token is being built into everything we do. And so what we're going to do right now is we're going to share the screen on some of the things that we described about our history. And I'm just going to elaborate on some of those and how they're important to where we are today. And then look through the roadmap, and then maybe we can put together a bit of a revised roadmap of what we're working on next. So Famida, can you bring up the screen, and let's have a look right at the beginning of the timeline from the token sale page, which I believe was 2010 was the first point.
All right, I'm going to share my screen now. If you could just let me know whether that is actually happening. Can you see my screen?
I could see myself, now I see the screen. Awesome,
there you go. Just gonna check the chat. Yeah, okay, great. So Bank to the Future incorporated in UK as one of the first online investment platforms for private equity in the world, and that was in 2010.
Yeah, so I just want to help people understand a bit about why our industry is where it is: ICOs, securities tokens, blockchain, equity crowdfunding, and really we've been through that whole movement. So way back in 2010, we're in 2019, so about 9 years ago, there was only really a crowdfunding industry and a peer-to-peer lending industry. Peer-to-peer lending industry was a concept to disrupt the banking model. And actually, and the industry was created in the UK, and the first company to do it was a UK company called Zopa. And they had a simple concept of allowing individual people to pull together their investments and lend them to people that wanted to borrow the money, and they would receive the interest, and they would essentially be an intermediary between borrower and lender again. It became known as peer-to-peer lending. There was crowdfunding as well. Websites like Kickstarter, originally it was Indiegogo was the first one, where people were selling their products before they were created, allowing people to purchase and back them, and raising funding for the next phase of whatever project they were creating. And a few companies, there was about 3 of us in the UK that were discussing the possibility of allowing for equity investing online. The term that came from that work was equity crowdfunding. Now, we don't do an equity crowdfunding model now, and we can describe that as we go through. But originally, there were 3 companies in the UK, and we were lobbying the regulator at the time, and we had something called the UK Crowdfunding Association, and we were lobbying the FSA, it was called at the time, which later became the FCA. God, I forget, it's been such a long time. And they allowed for a model whereby people could invest online in equity, and different models emerged, but that was really the foundational work. And the UK became the largest industry for that. And a lot of that work that was done back then was copied by different countries. For example, a few years later, the SEC decided to, or the US government lobbied the SEC in order to update some of their Securities Act of 1933 and what later became the Jobs Act. But this was about 3 to 4 years after this work that we were initially working on. And it was approximately 3 to 4 years of messing around with different models and trying to find a model that would work. And a lot of that groundwork led the foundation for what later brought us to the industry we are today. So let's look at the next point.
Okay, so 2011, Simon Dixon, CEO, Bank to the Future, speaks at the first Bitcoin conference in the world in Europe.
So I was very fortunate because I was giving a lot of talks on the future of money, and I quit investment banking in 2006, pre-financial crisis, started working on Bank to the Future in terms of allowing for equity investing online. I was introduced to Bitcoin very, very early, and was given the opportunity to speak at the very first Bitcoin conference, which was held in Prague, Europe. There was about 40 odd people in the room, and this was my first. Before that, I included it in my book, Bank to the Future, which was about how financial technology is going to transform the banking system and some of the unsustainable practices in banking. And I gave a talk. It's a bit cringeworthy when I listen to it back now. My thoughts have changed a lot, but still, that being introduced to Bitcoin early is really part of the story of that, because we decided later to actually transform the platform just to support the growth of the crypto industry, as it seems like it was going to have the most impact in the future of finance way back then. Let's look at the next one.
Yeah, sure. So 2012, Simon Dixon's book, Bank to the Future, launched. That may have been the first published book to include the topic of Bitcoin.
Yeah, okay. So, I mean, this does incorporate, because really the foundation of Bank to the Future and where we came from was based upon some of the subjects that were covered in that book, Bank to the Future, and some of the technologies. And really, we wanted to be diversified. We wanted to allow people to invest in this financial technology sector. And really, I believe that the book, Bank to the Future, was, as far as I know, the first published book that was published and included the topic of Bitcoin. Let's look at the next one.
Yep. So 2013, starting investing in some of the first token sales in the world, including Mastercoin, Storage, MadeSafe, and Ethereum, banking, escrow, and card processing relationships secured.
Okay, so this really laid the foundation for what later became known as the ICO. And the ICO was really fulfilling the original promise of what was originally tried. I guess the work that we did on equity crowdfunding was really the first wave of this online investing. But that was always treating things as securities and trying to do things in compliance with securities laws. The Bitcoin industry emerged, and when the Bitcoin industry came from a technology background and of trying to create a decentralized cryptocurrency, people started to realize that the technology could actually be used for other things. And the first version of, I guess, what Ethereum later became was Mastercoin, that was later rebranded as Omni, and that allowed people to create tokens on the Bitcoin blockchain, and that was really the birth of what became known as an initial coin offering, an ICO. At Bank to the Future, we supported some of the really early companies that later did ICOs, but we were investing in their equity, and we were doing things as securities, but they were also launching their tokens. So some of those included early ones like MadeSafe, which was one of the very early token sales, and I think they raised approximately $7 million in Omni and Bitcoin. And then there was Factum, who we were equity holders in, and we syndicated that through BnkToTheFuture.com. Really, they laid the foundation. And we also did Storage, which was, today you've probably all heard of IPFS, which is a very famous token sale. But Storage was the precursor, and they're still, we're still very excited about the technology they're bringing to market now. And these were really the foundation of showing that you could actually do what was like equity crowdfunding, but on a blockchain. And it wasn't really being treated as a security back then. It was very new. So we decided to make some investments in the industry and watch this whole new asset class emerge, I guess. Oh, and then it talks about, so at that point we secured our banking partnerships, gave the people the ability to invest through the platform using card and bank transfer as well, and our escrow partnerships and everything we needed to do to facilitate investing. So what's the next one?
Okay, so 2014, the UK platform Beta launched as an appointed representative on the Financial Conduct Authority, FCA, and registered FCA number 608257.
Okay, that speaks for itself. This was the year that we kind of figured out a regulatory model, but there was a major problem, and that problem was that the compliance model only allowed for UK businesses to pitch online to UK investors. Now, we were thinking, we were looking at the emergence of the Bitcoin blockchain industry, which was very small at the time. And we were syndicating some of the very early equity deals. And at that time, there was no industry that, it was a very niche. Very few people were interested in investing, and you could only really get a few, and you need to go global in order to achieve a decent funding round. So at this point, we realized after all that work that we didn't really have the model that was needed in order to facilitate funding and investing in the financial technology and blockchain industry. So we had to look again. So let's look at the next point.
Okay, so 2015, Bank to the Future leaves the UK and goes global, registered with Cayman Island Monetary Authority. Platform integrated with 25 flat and 35 cryptocurrencies. I think it's supposed to say fiat.
Fiat, flat. Okay. And so So yeah, we realized we needed a better model. So we looked to structure a more global model. And that's when we registered ourselves with SEMA and relocated and looked for a more global structure and set up a structure that allowed us to onboard more than just UK investors and work with more than just UK businesses. We also were an early investor in a company called Coin Payments, and Coin Payments allowed us, and we were also an early investor in Shapeshift, which all syndicated through the platform. Shapeshift was a very, niche business at the time. It was allowing people to exchange between cryptocurrencies, which was a very strange concept at the time, because really almost 90% or 99% of the industry was Bitcoin at that time. But using an integration with both Shapeshift and Coin Payments and our banking partners, we were able to allow people to invest in both, Bitcoin and a range of alternative cryptocurrencies, which was a really, really strange concept at the time. Because very few people were using Bitcoin to actually make investments, but I believe that we were one of the very, very early platforms that actually started getting decent volume of people paying in Bitcoin for investing in crypto equity and equity in the crypto companies. What's the next one?
Right. In 2016, Bank to the Future Capital Syndicates investments in many of the top Bitcoin and blockchain companies, eventually reaching over 200 million, invested in funding rounds listed on our online investment platform with over 45,000 qualifying high net worth fintech investors.
Yeah, so once we got the model right and we could on-ramp globally, Bitcoin went through a bit of a bull market, and I think it ramped up from, God, it's hard to get the timing right, but we had throughout this whole time, I guess we had the Mt. Gox collapse, we had the bull market before then, we had the crash down and everything in between, and then we were entering into, I think, a 2-year kind of sideways bear market after that. And so, the industry was still very niche, and so we started working on bringing the best investment opportunities that we could find for people to invest. And this is when we really started to build our portfolio, our syndicate model, whereby we were able to get access to some of the best funding rounds, simply because we created a really good structure. We onboarded a lot of investors, and we were able to do that, in compliance with securities laws in various different jurisdictions. And that's really when we started to get some kind of traction. And we did companies like Bitstamp, Kraken, Bitfinex, BitPay, Shapeshift, and some of the companies that, and I think it might not be this year, but then we did the very first, what I would consider, it wasn't called a security token at the time, but the Bitfinex hack recovery. I can't remember which year that was. It might have been the next year. It kind of all blurs into one. But that's where we essentially, in order to allow Bitfinex to recover from their $72 million financial hack that they suffered, the first security token was structured, and we allowed for the exchange to recover from that by putting together a very innovative, what I believe was the very first security token in the world, and allow people to extinguish their debt, convert it to equity, which was, I believe, there's actually a case study that you could watch. If you search for Bitfinex hack recovery in YouTube, you'll see where we described the whole case study, and it was, I believe, one of the most interesting structured deals that has happened in the crypto space. The next one.
Yep, on to 2017. Acquired stakes and partnered with SEC, FINRA, registered broker-dealer and alternative trading system, with the goal of allowing for the compliant trading of secondary market private securities, clearinghouse partner secured, secondary market technology developed, BFT private pre-sale launched.
Yeah, so at this stage, we started to realize that the number one request from our investors was the ability to actually liquidate some of their positions because the valuations had gone up, or some of the companies were not performing too well, and they were looking to exit that from one of the other investors that maybe had a more bullish view on the company. So we started to actually think about that in 2017. Now, the technology was really, I'd say, the easiest part. The hardest part was the compliance, secondly, and thirdly, how to create a fair market. And we were looking at a lot of these challenges. And one of the things we did is that we acquired a stake in a broker-dealer called Keystone. And that allowed for the compliant onboarding of US investors via a broker-dealer in order to syndicate into the deals. And they also owned what's known as an alternative trading system, ATS. Now, this is before the SEC announced what was the infamous DAO hack paper, where they told everyone that they're going to need to go through broker-dealers and they're going to need to use an ATS as a trading system. So we were well ahead on this. So we were trying, we were looking at that, getting everything lined up. Later, the management team at Keystone decided that they wanted to work at Coinbase. So in order to not hinder the growth of their careers, we decided that we would sell that ATS and broker-dealer to Coinbase, and Coinbase are now acquired that. And we started partnering with another broker-dealer in order to allow for the compliant onboarding of US investors that want to syndicate into these deals.
All right, so quarter one in 2018, the delivery of tokens after token sale and initial platform integration with BF token complete. Added ability to submit deal flow to our team.
Let's do those bullet points one at a time. So this now brings us to 2018, when we started to look at how we could do a token sale offering, but in compliance with securities laws. As we said, we'd had 3 or 4 years of experience. We'd watched the very first token sales. We'd learned from what had been done wrong. We made some opinions about how these should be done in the future. And we thought the timing was right for us to actually launch our own token, but still do it in compliance with securities laws. At this time, it was the way that we did it is we allowed our BnkToTheFuture.com qualifying investors to actually purchase membership by purchasing the BF token. And we created our whole ecosystem and white paper around what we could do by integrating the BF token into the BnkToTheFuture.com platform. And launching that. And so that was really at this stage. And so looking at this stage, I think it's probably worth us reviewing what we said we were going to do by what time frame and what we actually did. So the very first bullet point was deliver the tokens. The token sale ended up selling out in 2 minutes and 17 seconds. And the way we built the Ethereum smart contract was that it would deliver the tokens as soon as the token sale was over. So we delivered upon that promise, and we didn't create any liability like other token sales, because we did it in what our model of selling an investment contract that gave entitlement to future tokens, so that the tokens could actually still be used as the utility and currency that we use them for today. And we integrated them straight into the platform so that they actually could be used for membership. And our members started using those straight away in order to get priority access to deals. And we were happy with the model that we followed. And the interesting thing is we actually did all we could to comply with SEC. We filed our Form Ds and all the things you need to do for a 506 Reg D offering. And it only turned out that there was only about 150,000 of memberships sold to US people. So, and I think it costs way more than that in legal fees. So that's an interesting experiment in where the market's actually going. So the second bullet point?
Yeah, sure. It was add ability to submit deal flow to our team for review in exchange for BF tokens.
So we currently have the company page live right now. So anyone that has 10,000 Bank to the Future tokens, they can actually engage in the process of creating community company pages. It's really, we decided to put this one on hold and park it. Although the feature is live, the user experience is just not good enough at this stage to make it usable. So we decided to focus on other priorities. But the initial integration and ability to actually use it, granted, not too many people used it for that, but the feature was actually built, and we decided to focus on things that we thought our investors would get more benefit from and our members would get more benefit from.
The next point is add ability to contribute to investor relations in exchange for BF tokens.
So we built the system whereby we can reward people that give the most valuable contribution. We found that our community were giving valuable contributions on the investor relations forum, and we wanted to reward them with BFT. We started to build those features, and we still have the rewards pool, and we haven't developed that to the extent that we would like to, because we've decided to focus more on what our members and our community was asking for more, which was the secondary market and other features. So the next point.
Yeah, and it is to launch BFT wallet on Apple Store and Android.
So this one, I think we were over ambitious. We thought that we could do that within the first quarter. The reason that we thought we could do that is because we were actually engaging and speaking with a white label provider at the time that said we could launch it very quickly. But when we actually started to go deep into that wallet, we decided that it didn't meet the standards that we wanted, and it didn't have the model. And we would rather, create the wallet from scratch, built from the ground up, in order to integrate it deeply with BnkToTheFuture.com, and also allow for a wallet that could actually support the security token ecosystem, which was, at that time, everyone was doing ICOs and tokens. So, but we were building for the security token industry, which hadn't actually become a name or really matured at that point. So we decided to build it from the ground up, and we did launch it, but not in that time frame. It is actually now live on iOS and Android right now, the first version, and we're about to launch our first security token, allow people to hold that security token on the BF wallet as we speak. So we missed our goal by a long way because the plan changed and we wanted to build a better product.
All right, so we are on Q2 2018. First point is launch portal for voting on new deals to be considered for listing on Bank to the Future.
So this was going to be integrated within our company page, and what we discovered is that there was very little use for this in the primary markets. By that, we get hundreds and hundreds of applications, and very few of those are the types of deals that would make it to BnkToTheFuture.com. And what we found is that this voting platform, we believe, would be much more appropriate and suited to the security token industry once there's a more buoyant ecosystem, as opposed to using it on the primary markets for equity. So we decided to delay that feature and focus more on the features that people were actually requesting and asking for at the time. But it's still something in the 2019, 2020 roadmap that we think there will be a more buoyant ecosystem for wanting to see what types of security tokens get listed either on our wallet or on on a future exchange. And we think a voting system would be more appropriate, but we decided that that wasn't the right timing to do that in Q2 2018.
Okay. So the next point is beta test wallet that allows whitelisted users to hold tokenized securities compliantly on their wallets and trade peer-to-peer. So
we have now, so that was Q2 2018. As we said, we decided to build the wallet from the ground up, but we've now that the wallet is available, we're about to do our first integration with the securitized protocol for the lottery.com token. That's all live right now. And within the next week or so, we will be delivering that security token to all the investors that were syndicated through BnkToTheFuture.com, and they will be able to, all whitelisted users will be able to exchange those between each other.
Okay, so the last point of Q2 2018 is develop order book for tokenized securities that clears through our clearinghouse partner and exchange partner for additional liquidity.
So at the time we had discussed which company could actually do the clearing and custodial of securities tokens, and they are still, to this day, still in discussions with the regulators to try and allow for that. So there was a regulatory delay in being able to complete that integration, but the partnership is all secured and the ecosystem's evolving as we speak, and we came up with our own model to be able to do that. So while the regulations were trying to catch up, what we decided to do is, rather than wait for regulations to catch up, we decided to do everything in our centralized model. The benefit of Bank to the Future is that we're actually working with real customers, and we're actually live, and we can actually adapt our roadmap based upon what the customers actually want. So we decided that rather than trying to build this whole decentralized ecosystem from scratch, we're going to actually iterate from our centralized model into a model by launching the BF wallet, and then in the future, in 2019 roadmap, 2020 roadmap, depending where the market goes, we could take those assets which exist in a centralized way on BnkToTheFuture.com, create our secondary market that allows for the OTC peer-to-peer trade in our centralized way. But then using the BF wallet, we can allow people to take those securities, and then we can tokenize them on the way out, whitelist them, and we're building an identity solution to allow for that, which is currently in production right now. That was a product that wasn't discussed in the roadmap that we're currently building. And combine that with the BF wallet and iterate out so that we can actually do what is demand driven by our actual investors, as opposed to creating, which is happening a bit in the securities token market. People are creating technology that people can't use, and therefore they get to launch and it's becoming a bit of a ghost town. So in the meantime, and we believe that was the same with ICOs. It started as ghost town, it iterated out, but we were doing funding and our model throughout the whole thing so that we could sustain and grow as the ecosystem grew.
All right, we are on Q3 2018. Launch full tokenized securities marketplace with our first 2 companies on our secondary market with our exchange partner.
Yep. So we have several partnerships right now that that have been really aggressively working on the securities token exchange. Unfortunately, the liquidity is very low right now, but we are in discussions, and we've invested in many of the companies and brought investment opportunities in many of the companies that are building the ecosystem. And we decided that we want to focus on the centralized secondary market and iterate that out into a securities token exchange stroke ecosystem, rather than actually building something that does not have the liquidity at the moment. And therefore we can build the platform that in the future, but it was definitely something that was not a realistic time frame, based upon the fact that everyone was still investing in ICO tokens at the time, and the securities token was just not an ecosystem, and it's still not yet.
Okay, so for Q4 2018, we have 2 points here. First point is to target to launch 10 tokenized security markets.
So we are currently now, our new roadmap is to do everything in the centralized way and then iterate out to the securities token market via the BF wallet. and make sure that we integrate the BF token to incentivize people into all of that and built into our ecosystem. In terms of, we don't have 10 tokenized securities. We did our first securities token offering. We did the delivery of the token through the wallet. And we're working on the whitelisting side, but those 10 deals are now going to be 10 centralized deals. And we didn't achieve that by Q4 2018, but we think by Q2 2018, we've got the 10 deals that we already have decided that we're going to launch on our secondary market. But we decided, rather than rush through the 10 deals, we want to launch our market slowly into beta, do our first few million of volume of trades between people, and we did that with the Bitfinex SPV. And so now that is actively, the community at Bitfinex are actually engaging and telling us what features they'd like. So initially it was a sell order book where we could do OTC trades, and then people wanted the ability to actually price their own buy orders, and then add volume and different matrix. And then now we're working on a deeper integration with the company page so that we can have more of a community feel, so that people can actually ask questions at the same time as deciding. And the goal throughout 2019 and through is to actually, once we've got pretty much all of the major brand names within the crypto ecosystem on our secondary market, then we want to create a real seamless user experience whereby someone could come along and say, I want to build a portfolio in the top crypto companies. They can go through the accreditation, go through our identity solution, and they can press a few buttons and they can be diversified once they qualify to invest across the industry. The people that invested earlier that have the stock can put an order on there and provide some liquidity for that. And then eventually they could take those off into tokenized security as the market evolves, and then perhaps take those out to multiple exchanges plus an exchange that we might have depending on the time frame. So the 10 number is definitely a number that we're sticking to. The time frame, I think we're about 6. If that was Q4, I think we'll get that by Q2 2019.
Great. So the second point for Q4 is develop Bank to the Future index for Bitcoin and blockchain companies listed on our platform.
Yeah, one of the things we're really excited about is when we first launched our secondary market and allowed for people to buy shares in the Bitfinex SPV, and people started doing some comparison and using the price of Bitfinex SPV shares to attach a valuation to Bitfinex. And then they started comparing that to the Kraken round, and people started, we noticed that the press started using the Bank to the Future prices as a proxy for the prices of the companies. And so we see this as a real positive first step towards that goal. And once we got a more diversified market, we think we can make a real, easy experience, but we didn't achieve that by Q4. I think it would be more realistic to say that by Q4 2019, after doing more extensive customer testing and penetration testing on our existing product that's going live.
All right, so we are on to 2019. Continue strategic acquisitions and investments to support the adoption and growth of Bitcoin, blockchain, and fintech globally.
So the 2019, I think it all depends upon the bear market, whether we start making more strategic acquisitions. We made a few, but at the moment we don't feel that. I mean, it all depends where the market goes next. It's starting to feel like we might get a bit of a turnaround, but one thing we're finding really interesting is that the bear market really does shake out the people that aren't meant to be here or don't want to be here or were never meant to be here in the first place. And what we are finding from that is that it's creating a good opportunity for us to hire talented people that might have come from a company that overexposed themselves during the bull market. And also, as some of the companies unfortunately aren't going to make it, we're seeing some opportunities there as well. But at the same time, we also want to remain conservative. The reason we've been around for long a long time, is because no matter what happens, whenever we're faced with these challenges, and we've seen so many of these bull and bear markets now, and regulatory challenges and changes and everything, I mean, we almost got disrupted in our equity model by the token market, but we managed to navigate our way around that. And so we want to also continue that conservative approach, but at the same time, take advantage of some of the opportunities that are available.
All right, and finally, we have 2020, which is to continue to support the step-by-step transition to a more decentralized financial system as regulations catch up with financial innovation and decentralized finance fully disrupts traditional finance.
So really, that was the original thesis that we were investing into, whether it's decentralized, whether it's not. We see two ecosystems evolving, and we think both of them are going to boom. There is the onboarding in a regulated environment that allow people to convert their fiat into crypto, and we will continue to invest in companies that bring opportunities for co-investors on the platform for those that are building that initial onboarding process. At the very same time, there is a movement once you've done the centralized, the more centralized model, to want to get over to hardware wallets, peer-to-peer, decentralized finance, and some of the really interesting things that are happening there. So we'll continue to invest in both. We think that both are going to boom. We think that both are complementary, and we're more excited about where the industry is going. It becomes more clear over the years which of the companies are going to, seem to be becoming unicorns. I remember when we very first brought deals like Kraken and started talking about companies like that, they were seen as ultra speculative, crazy companies. And it's kind of really the same right now. Some of the opportunities that might seem a bit wacky, in a few years' time, depending on if the teams are right, a few of those will go on, hopefully, to become larger unicorns. And the rest will either just continue to go along, or they'll fail. And that's just the nature of the game. But in the end, we believe that there is a big movement. We still believe that this is the most exciting time to be alive in financial history, and we're delighted at BnkToTheFuture.com to have been involved in that and look to continue being involved in that. And really taking the BF token, which is, I think, a tremendous opportunity to integrate that into all that we do, and really, hopefully, the goal is to become, with that token, with the BF token, to become what, very similar to what Binance created with their cryptocurrency exchange. We look to do the similar thing in the securities token ecosystem. As it evolves, be diversified and also laser focused on the singular particular goal, not jumping around from opportunity to opportunity like other people might be doing. So I think that's probably a good time. Should we do a quick time check? How long have we been going for, Famida, do you know?
45 minutes.
Okay, so I don't know how many people are watching live. Because not many people know that we're going live yet, because we haven't promoted that fact outside of some of our more intimate social media channels. If you're watching this, please do join our Telegram community. We'll try and put some links underneath this video. Or if you're a Twitter person, please do follow us on Twitter. But if you want to get notifications about these live broadcasts, and our intention is to continue doing these each week, please suggest to us what topics you'd like us to cover. And also join our community, ask a question, and we'll try and get that covered in the next live broadcast. But underneath this video, if you're on YouTube, there's a subscribe button. Hit that subscribe button. Hit like, hit share, help us get more people that might want to find out about this opportunity. Obviously, we can only reach out to serve qualifying investors as part of the ecosystem, but more people are interested in some of our clients as well, as not just us. And if you hit the bell button, then it will send you an email notification from YouTube every time we broadcast live. So Famida, I don't know how many people were watching live at this stage. I think it's going to go up, but is there any questions in there that we might have got either from Telegram or from the live chat, and we can take those for the last 15 minutes or so?
Yeah, so we actually have 15 watching now. And I don't believe we have any questions from Telegram. And we do have a funny question in the live chat in YouTube. It's, where did you get your cat from?
Glad you noticed that, but yeah, that's Simon's cat, and it was actually a gift from Famida for the show.
Hey. It's actually called Simon's cat, which is funny. All right, yeah, I think that's it, really, Simon.
That's all the questions we got?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we did get some information from John Larandieu. I'm not sure if I pronounced that correctly, but just gave us an update saying, just for your information, my Android beta BF wallet was automatically updated to the Google Play Store and for the BF wallet version 1.2.0 with no issues.
Great. Okay, that's good to know. Make sure you do keep if you've got the feature to auto update, please use that, because we're going to be iterating out every couple of weeks as we launch new securities tokens and new features. So do give us feedback on what you'd like to see there. It's good to hear that is doing that, and yeah, please do upgrade those and make sure that you're getting the latest version of the BF wallet, because at the moment it might not do much, but each version we're looking to add more deeper integrations with BnkToTheFuture.com in the future, allow you to access your portfolio, to get push notifications when new deals go live. So if you maintain the VIP premium membership and hold 10,000 BFT on either your wallet or your BnkToTheFuture.com account, and then also allow for your wallet address to get whitelisted, if you're certified and verified, so that you can get ready for the securities token ecosystem as it evolves and as we watch this become perhaps the next asset class in the crypto area.
Well, Simon, we've just had another question come through.
Okay.
Would you like to take it?
Absolutely.
Do you think Bitcoin has a chance to be the world reserve currency, essentially digital gold? And will there be other cryptocurrencies used for everyday medium of exchange?
Do I believe that Bitcoin could become a world reserve cryptocurrency? The answer to that is that Bitcoin right now is what I call a speculative store of value. Now, most people associate Bitcoin with a store of value, and they liken it to digital gold, and they discuss how it's better than gold because it's more fungible, more portable, more easy to transport around the world, and it's digital, and you can send it from person to person very easily without censorship, unless you're using it on an exchange or using it in a bank-like service. I believe that Bitcoin is an exit from the traditional financial system, and at the moment it is not quite a store of value, but it is a speculative store of value. Let me explain that. A store of value means that over a long extended period of time, you maintain the value of your purchasing power. So if I could buy one suit today, then in 100 years, I can still buy one suit with the same value. Bitcoin would probably have allowed you in the same time frame to buy 165 million suits. So if you were across the Bitcoin life cycle. And that is the reason for that is because Bitcoin is not a store of value yet, it's a speculative store of value. And what that means is that it has every potential in my mind to become a store of value. And I do believe it will be a vastly superior store of value to gold. But at the moment, it's not clear whether it will succeed in becoming a store of value or not. And so that creates a speculative opportunity whereby those that believe that Bitcoin can become a store of value can actually hold Bitcoin, and any upside in the price as a result of it gradually transitioning to becoming more of a store of value like gold that maintains its value, then you will benefit from any upside in that actually becoming a goal. And I still believe that because it's not a store of value yet, the opportunity is still vast to bet on whether it could become a store of value and the return is the speculative side of that. Whereas gold, there is no real returns to be made personally, not financial advice, because it is a store of value. It's about maintaining value. Now, if Bitcoin as a speculative store of value creates this first asset class that exists outside the traditional financial system, I can totally see an opportunity whereby the traditional financial system, because it's built upon unsustainable principles that have vast trillions of debt that need to be washed out of the system, then people are going to see the user experience of traditional money get worse and worse and worse. I.e., if you deposit your money at a bank and it gets bailed in, that's a very bad user experience. If you own money at a bank-like institution like Coinbase, and the value of your Bitcoin goes up so much, and then it becomes worth, say, $100,000, and then you try and transfer it out, and that custodial service says that you've got to, tell you whether you can transfer it out or not, then bank-like services become bad user experiences. Because the government has a large agenda to tackle money laundering, obviously, as a securities business, we need to tackle that as well. But it makes money a worse user experience. As cash becomes illegal, it makes money a worse user experience. And all of these drive people to looking at alternatives that exist outside the financial system, with the ultimate being when the financial system unfortunately leads to you either losing your deposit or the value of your deposit being completely extinguished or asset being extinguished because there's unsustainable pension schemes and financial products and insurance products and all sorts of things that have been perpetuated through the debt financial system. And that will drive people to wanting to explore the user experience of how to use Bitcoin. I also believe that central banks will start looking at Bitcoin in a game of chicken to decide who's going to be the first central bank to hold it on reserve. I believe there are central banks that do that as we speak. They're just not telling you. And I think the smaller countries are the ones that are most incentivized to do that. And the largest economy that is a major country that might do that before everyone else, and may have done it already, I would speculate on a country like Japan doing that in order to get a strategic advantage. As the US dollar is due, every 50 years, we normally get a new fiat currency that tends to dominate and the evaporation of another one. Before it was GBP, now it's USD. Maybe it would be JPY because they adjusted and the central bank were the first to actually accumulate Bitcoin reserves. And then I think as this chicken game happens, there will be vast amounts of institutional volume that comes in, central banking volume that comes in. And Bitcoin could, at the very end of it, be a completely apolitical standard thing that exists and could be our world's best shot at achieving sound money. At the very same time, we do have layer 2 scaling solutions for medium of exchange. And then once Bitcoin is no longer a speculative store of value, if the value becomes more stable and the investment opportunity is over and it becomes more about actually maintaining value, then it has a chance of being a unit of account and a medium of exchange because people can plan their lives around it. And so this is an eventuality that I think very speculative could actually happen, but it doesn't actually need to happen for Bitcoin to succeed. All Bitcoin needs to do is create an alternative to the traditional financial system. And I believe the traditional financial system is built upon unsustainable principles that would eventually drive people to the knee. I also think that there's going to be a lot of financial innovation at the central banking level where they launch their own digital currencies and compete with retail banks and allow retail banks to go bust. And I think at that point, when people's money is being held directly with a central bank and financial technology companies built on top of it, I think the money is going to hit a real scary place and drive people to want to own their own money, spend their own money, and have a monetary policy that's independent of these politics. and independent of any country. And I think that Bitcoin is the world's best shot we got at achieving sound money. Will there be other cryptocurrencies? Certainly, there will be other cryptocurrencies fulfilling different use cases. There will be disruption in capital markets. We're looking at everything's been built on Ethereum right now, but Bitcoin also has their competitors to Ethereum, like the Liquid network that Blockstream are building. Rootstock, one of our other portfolio companies, is building side chains. And we might see that converge towards Bitcoin, but I also believe that there will be other chains, and there's going to be lots and lots of different cryptocurrencies. There's going to be lots and lots of securities tokens. You can think of them more like stocks, but only one of them, in my estimation, has a chance of becoming sound money, and that's Bitcoin, because of the properties of how it was created without having a centralized promoter. And is more decentralized in terms of how it actually competes in the ecosystem. But I think that there will be a lot of innovation that comes from blockchain. Different use cases will be fulfilled, and there'll be lots of very speculative opportunities to outperform the price of Bitcoin by diversifying into other speculative opportunities, and also diversifying into equity as well. And so the key of the game is that, I believe that a diversified approach is the best approach. And that's always what we've sought to achieve at BnkToTheFuture.com, and allow others to invest in a range of different asset classes within the industry, as well as different opportunities in this high risk, high return sector that we call financial technology and cryptocurrencies. So sorry, that was a very long answer, but I guess we covered all the time, ending on a bit of a forecast of where we think this is going next. Unless there's another Bank to the Future related questions, because my goal was always to keep these live broadcasts about Bank to the Future for our community, because I give a lot of content on things like this for other podcasts. But this one's meant to be about Bank to the Future, so I took a bit of a tangent there.
Hello everyone, I just thought it'd be fair if I just showed my face. I did actually scan through for some more questions, but they are coin related questions, so they're not exactly Bank to the Future related. So I think we can end there.
Okay, so thank you very much. This is a second broadcast. Thanks, Famida, for assisting in helping us go through that roadmap. Let us know what you'd like to see next, and we'll put this out live now and get more. We'll put this out in our next newsletter, and look forward to going live again next week. Thank you.